Good morning and welcome into Card Central 365 on STL Sports Central. I am Ethan Hannaford. He is Brenden Schaeffer. As mentioned, this is Card Central 365. The Cardinals coming off of a disappointing 6-5 loss that was very action-packed in the first three innings. And then after that, well, the bullpens took over. Matthew Liberatore, not quite his best stuff last night. And, discussed this a little bit on last night's post-game show, Brenden. Anytime that you have Sonny Gray or Matthew Liberatore, and obviously I think that's a little bit of a degree higher when Sonny's on the mound, but you're kind of really leaning on those two a little bit harder right now because of the lack of certainty that you've gotten from the other three, especially Fedde and Michaelis as of late. So anytime that you don't get that outing from Liberatore that you're hoping for, it's a little bit disappointing. The Cardinals were able to stick in it, but not enough to be able to pull out last night's win.
Yeah, it's also like a little bit of an out-of-body experience because you've come to expect Libby to just be so solid at this point. Like you almost feel like something's off. What? I wasn't expecting him to be the one that kind of blew up a little bit, but he struggled last night. And he said after the game in the clubhouse, I was there at Busch, that it just didn't have a feel, didn't have his best stuff. And I asked him, well, any particular pitch that you were kind of struggling to get a feel for? And he said it was really just across the board that he just, it's just one of those nights. And he talked about having some moments where there was maybe a spot where he knew the pitch he was about to throw was one the batter could probably handle. But in that moment, it was just the pitch that he felt like he could, deliver the best. And if that's a feel thing, if that's I didn't really dive into specifics, so we can only speculate on, was it the grip? What was it that just didn't feel right? He said he felt great coming out of the bullpen too. Like his warm up was as good as, as it could have been, which a lot of times we feel like pitchers say that. You hear pitchers say, I don't know what happened. Sometimes that's baseball. And it was you were there in the press box last night for a while, muggy night, just sticky, just miserable to be there. And so I don't know, sometimes if your focus is off by just a touch, it can be hard to find it back. So that was the start you got from Libby. But to your point, it was encouraging. Ollie kind of caught himself last night in the post game where there's been a few times where they'll lose a game, but he'll try to explain, well, this was a fun game and here's why. But like, I think he knows now that, okay, when I say that, people are going to take it out of context. They're going to take it wrong. But it was true. Like it was the type of game where you thought, oh, for sure, this one's over after the top of the third. Cardinals battle back for 3 in the bottom half. They're only down by 1 run. He had that great play by Victor Scott II to end the top of the third inning, stop the bleeding there. It's like there's a lot of really good things happening. And then the game just kind of stopped after the third inning. Nobody scored. 11 runs collectively in the first 2 innings. Nothing thereafter. Great credit to the bullpen and the bridge guys and Riley O'Brien and Matt Swanson. There were good things, Ethan, that came out of last night's game. A win, unfortunately, just was not one of them.
Do you think that Matthew Liberatore is going deeper into that game, or they're at least sending him out there for the 4th inning if the Cardinals don't respond in the bottom of the third the way they did to get back in the mix, and all of a sudden it's a ball game again? It's a 1-run game. Do you think that Ollie Marmol could have potentially elected to stick with Liberatore if they don't have that bottom of the third production that they did?
Huh. That's interesting because it was very clear he didn't have it, right? The Braves scored in each inning. So if you're Ollie, you're looking at that 4th inning potentially going, probably going to happen again. Like reasonably, you could not expect it to suddenly turn around for Liberatore. And once they do put up that proof of concept, but like, and I didn't look exactly when Riley started warming up, but I have to imagine like that was, it was kind of a long bottom of the third, so he probably had time. It's a good question. It's not one that was broached last night, but I think it's interesting. I also wonder though, like with any other starter of the 5, that answer, if that same situation might be yes.
Good
but
point.
With Libby, I wonder if they would say he's had 3 stressful innings. They're not counting his innings per se, but they are aware of the workload. The fact that, last year he threw 86 innings in total because he was a bullpen guy. Year before that, I think he was in like the 125 range between Memphis and St. Louis. So already, he's surpassed his 2024 innings total. They've been very specific. Ollie has addressed this numerous times. It's not about innings per se, but it is about workload and monitoring and understanding how you might want to get Libby through to the end. Yes, they get a nice little break this week, but the break is only going to be, for starters, is only going to be as much as they decide to reorient their rotation. Like Sonny's going to pitch tomorrow. I'll be curious to see who's coming out of the break, because technically it could be Sonny. I mean, he could pitch 2 games in a row on 4 days rest. They won't do that, but will it be 7 days? Will it be, what will they do, and how will they figure out a way to slot everybody else back in? And where does Liberatore's name come into that? Do they push him toward the back end because of the, I wouldn't say workload concerns, but it's at least something you have to be aware of. So I guess I like that question. I think because it's Libby, the answer still might be no, because especially too, you're coming up to the All-Star break here in a couple of days. But then again, I mean, you just had 2 guys that Matt Swanson's like usually been in his career a 1-inning guy, and last night he records 8 outs for you. Riley O'Brien throws 38 pitches for a couple innings. You probably don't have those guys before the end of the All-Star break. Like, I don't know what that's a tight spot. And Ollie seemed last night eager to get into the office and talk with Dusty about what do we have, and maybe a conversation about what do we need. I don't think it's impossible we would see a roster move today. I would just hate to see that for either of those guys that pitched last night because they look so good.
Yeah, it's just kind of unfortunately the reality of where this Cardinal bullpen is heading into the conclusion of the first half of play. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to get through or how they're able to get through, right, with the pitching, considering those 2 threw a substantial amount of pitches last night, both of them. And as you mentioned, both very good and very encouraging as to, that we fans talk about so many of the frustrations, different aspects of this team. One area that it feels like has continued to grow throughout the season and has gotten deeper and deeper is this bullpen that has built up some solid AAA depth, where even right now there's a couple of guys you're like, well, and we haven't even seen Ryan Fernandez in a while. This is a guy that they've traditionally been able to rely on. I think
he got a save last night in Memphis. Ryan Fernandez got a save last night in Memphis for the first time.
How about that? And same, Roycroft's another guy that they have thought highly of.
He was good last night too. You're talking about all the guys that pitched for Memphis. Roycroft was 2 1/3, not a thing. Just like no hits, no walks, no nothing. 3 strikeouts.
Right, and they're not up here right now.
Yeah.
But we know that how the organization views them. They've given them multiple opportunities, and at some point they're going to get an opportunity again. But you got Graceffo. I mean, there's plenty of guys. You consider what Swanson and O'Brien have done last night. It's going to be a little bit of a dogfight figuring out what that who's going to be up here in the second half. You're not going to have as many of those long stretches, so maybe you don't have as much requirement, right, to have to shuffle it around as much as you were throughout the month of July. June. That'll be something interesting to keep an eye on, but definitely I think some encouraging things that we're seeing out of the back end, or I guess more so the bullpen in general, right now from the Cardinals.
Yeah, and like those guys that went last night are kind of your bridge guys that I don't know how they view Swanson. It has seemed like a very slow crawl. Like, he performs well, and they don't really upgrade his role too much. They've expanded it to include like multi-innings, as we saw last night, but he's still more like a bridge guy, not necessarily a leverage guy. Riley O'Brien stuff, it feels like a 17-month post-hype sleeper right now, because I've been saying since February of 2024, like, you guys got to see this Riley O'Brien kid. He's unbelievable. It's like, well, he's 29. What's going on here? But, man, he's really starting to come into his own, and I don't know if it'll last, but it really was encouraging to see, and I love the emotion coming off the mound, getting out of the jam. I think it was the strikeout of Harris that got him out of the bases loaded or whatever it was. That was really cool, and I think he's got the kind of stuff. He's got 2.18 ERA as well this year with the Cardinals. So the numbers finally matching it up and kind of feeling like a big leaguer, I think, is something that Riley O'Brien, I mean, just hearing him talk last night, reporters at his locker, just feels a little different than if he feels comfortable. He feels content, confident, and kind of knows where his feet are right now. Again, I do not want to see the Cardinals needing innings sending either of those guys out today, because they did do such a good job last night. But you're right, there are guys down below. Roycroft, I'm not convinced that they're ready to give up on Roycroft, even though his numbers at Memphis haven't been good. Like, man, another stuff candidate where you really can see it if he can put it together. And sometimes for relievers, it takes time, and then 1 year it just clicks, and he's a 1.8 Phil Maton ERA. Like, I'm not going to say that's impossible for the future of Roycroft. And you mentioned Fernandez. Like, there's a lot of guys down there. Samuel upset with me because I didn't mention Quinn Matthews. I basically talked about everybody who pitched last night for Memphis. Quinn, trouble with efficiency, but 77 pitches through 4 scoreless innings. So that was the update on Quinn Matthews for Memphis.
Encouraging sign.
But you're right. The bullpen, it's one of those deals where last night's game, if they find the tying run somewhere and then they win it 7-6, we're like falling over ourselves to talk about how critical Riley O'Brien and Matt Swanson were to that game. But when you lose, it's like it kind of can be lost in the shuffle a little bit. And that's why when Ollie says things like, hey, this was a fun game, and then he kind of has to catch himself because he doesn't want to, put his foot in his mouth with the fan base.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about, though. It is. Like, that's an encouraging thing. If you've got those two guys able to operate in those capacities, like for those fans who have said, I'm tired of seeing why can guys only come in and throw one inning as relievers. Look at what they've done this year with guys like Matz, Leahy, and now kind of O'Brien and Swanson fitting that mold too.
Yeah, super encouraging stuff. It'll be interesting to see if that plays a role. If not at the deadline, definitely in the 2025-26 offseason for how exactly the Cardinals set up this bullpen to be for next season. A little conversation that'll definitely take place a little bit down the road, but definitely some encouraging signs that you're seeing from the bullpen so far. The last thing I'll say about Matthew Liberatore, we know that there was a lot of stuff being left over the heart of the plate. Did you notice, Brendan, when he was coming in from the bullpen last night, how drenched his jersey was?
I'm telling you, it was gross out there, man.
Drenched. I mean, dark red jersey. I was like, oh my gosh, he's definitely going to go change his jersey. There's no chance, right? So anyway, Matthew Liberatore not able to put forward the best effort on the mound, best production, I should say. The Cardinals lose last night's game 6-5. He is Brenden Schaeffer. I am Ethan Hannaford. This is Card Central 365. Last thing I'll say about last night's game, Brendan, the Cardinals, this weird combination, right, where you score 5 runs, 10 hits. Anytime that happens, you're thinking, yeah, you probably should win a ball game. But at the same time, in the final 6 innings, honestly, even you throw the second inning in there as well, where they had ample opportunity to score. They left a lot of runners on base as well. So it's this weird combination, right, where you're like, yeah, that's a frustrating one, but also like the offense to a certain extent did their job plating 5 runs.
Yeah, I would say, and Ollie made some interesting comments too after the game, talking about this will be, not every game is this way, but this will be a game that you look back to and you can have some really good teaching moments from when it comes to those latter 6 innings. And they were putting guys in position. They were getting ducks on the pond. They weren't necessarily executing in some of those small moments that they would have needed to get it over the hump. And, this is a game he said they'll look back at and kind of use it as a teaching point in certain regards. So, and look, there are a lot of younger players on this team, a lot of veterans too, but like enough guys that you go, hey, this will be, as a team, to be the type of team we want to be. It's that team that doesn't, ever give up on a game. You can always come back, but we didn't, they didn't quite close the deal last night. Even though they put themselves in position to get that one, they never quite got back over the hump. And so it's frustrating for sure, because right now you're kind of feeling the heat of the standings a little bit. And the closer we get to the trading deadline, people are going to go, well, what record do they need to have to really do what I want them to do at the deadline, whether that's buy or sell, whatever. And so you're kind of wanting to see those results. And it just came up a little bit short. So it's easy to be very frustrated with that. But it was also kind of like went out with a whimper. When you have 6 innings and nobody scores, you could have watched the first 3 innings. It was like a hockey game. You could have watched the first 3 periods and said, all right, that's the end. And that's kind of what happened. Even though there was so much that took place thereafter, it wasn't anything that resulted in anything for the Cardinals. So I don't know. I don't know how you as a fan base take that, but obviously it'd be probably a little bit less concerning, less frustrating if you didn't now have to go, all right, what are we going to get from Erick Fedde today? And, who the hell is pitching for the Braves? Yeah. I'm still seeing TBD. I don't know what's happening. Atlanta's so secretive about everything.
I was about to say the same exact thing. It's very interesting. It feels like maybe Craig Counsell is secretly also like the just like the hand in the puppet of Brian Snitker. Maybe that's what's happening here, because it seems like a north side kind of move. But very interesting to see what exactly we're going to get out of the Braves here. I mean, we are 4 hours away from game time. Less than 4 hours. And we don't know who the starting pitcher for the Braves is going to be? Like, what is this?
I like this comment from Samuel. If you're left-handed, head down to Bush, you might start for the Braves. Like, there's still time. If you leave your house right now,
I'm a lefty.
Me too. But we race you there.
Let's go. Come on. Let's fucking have it.
You're gonna have to change uniforms though. You got the wrong team on. I'm just wearing a Buc-ee's hat, so I'm clean. I'm good. I'll be ready. I would do it. I would take that 1-day payday too. And then look, if I'll even join the post game after and be like, hey guys, Cardinals got a big win today. That new lefty that Atlanta threw out there really
he was terrible.
He was serving up some meats. I mean, I've never seen. He was below the hitting speed, struck out the side in the first inning, but once everybody got used to him, the 9 home runs in a row, the Cardinals hit a Busch Stadium 3 record. And then I could do the game and then I could do the post game. It'd be great.
And then they brought in another lefty following, and it was just as bad. Just
the
as
first, it would be like a 39-22 game. The Cardinals figured with such a big lead, Erick Fedde's going to have to wear this one, and I don't know. It's a fun concept.
I got nothing. That's where that conversation goes when the Braves don't have a starting pitcher announced.
I mean,
3.5 hours before first.
Can we have some respect for the game, please? Come on.
Oh boy, They
should have to throw out there like this amoebus blob of a gray man that is sitting on MLB.com right now, a faceless, nameless wonder. That's what I want. I want them to put on like a Slenderman costume with the full face cover. That'd be pretty hot actually out there today.
I'm gonna put like Aaron Balake or some like Key and Peele like name on there. That's what I want to see on there. But I'm not gonna be so fortunate. He is Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Ethan Hannaford. This is some sort of episode of Card Central 365. I'm not sure what exactly, but it is. We're gonna take this. We're gonna take a pause. Then we'll talk a little bit more about Erick Fedde. We're going to tell you about
we'll predict his game. We're going to predict Erick Fedde's line today.
This should get interesting. And we want the fans to get involved in this as well as they are with everything here at STL Sports Central. And as everything else is, the Card Central 365 is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours, as well as Gray Bar. So be sure to download that DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports. For new customers to play. $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with DraftKings or Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
He is Brenden Schaeffer. I am Ethan Hannaford. This is Card Central 365. Before we talk a little bit, there it is. Yep, and the 5, bam. Before we get into talk about Erick Fedde here, I tell you what, you talk about a team that is just going through it, and you got to feel for Brian Snitker a little bit in this Brave squad that has so much talent, but has dealt with so much injury this year, and obviously, you know, trying to just get to the All-Star break here. But clearly being in a tough situation here, trying to figure out who's going to start these last couple of games before the break. They don't have tomorrow's pitcher announced either on their website at least. So you talk about you think it's, you know, for the fans that are fed up with how it's been in St. Louis this year. I mean, take a look down in Atlanta and be thankful, right?
Hey, maybe what you just said was actually like very prescient, because you said the fans are fed up. What if what's happening behind the scenes is Erick Fedde is actually about to change dugouts today and emerge from the shadows as Michael McGreevy pitching for the Cardinals. Fedde's facing the Cardinals today. We just didn't know about the trade yet because the Braves have no other healthy pitchers. It's the only explanation.
What if they're trading Fedde and McGreevy's throwing for us? I like that one more.
That's what I said.
No, you just said the other. You said they're trading McGreevy.
No. Okay, roll the tape back.
Okay,
Fedde is going to start for the Braves. That's why they haven't announced it yet.
Woo! All right. I got a little stressed out for a second there. I was dude.
No.
Dude, everything would go to this stream would go to oblivion if that was the case. So Erick Fedde, we know how the last several starts have been. It has not been pretty.
Yes.
For him. So
Samuel backed me up. Samuel backed me up and said you misheard. I wasn't sure, but I think I said it.
All right.
I meant to. Anyway.
I digress.
All right, back to the story here.
It's no secret, right, that Erick Fedde has been in a rough spot here as of late. Seemed like a lot of media, a lot of people were beginning to think that this was going to be a day where Michael McGreevy was going to be starting, not just because of what you've gotten production-wise from Erick Fedde, but also because after last week's start against Chicago on Sunday Night Baseball, he just mentally just did not seem there. Just the confidence was not there. And that is a concerning thing, right? When it comes to starting pitching, right? So I think a few different reasons, right, for people to be surprised. Overall, when you looked at this whole situation, when you take into consideration what Fedde has been like as of late, were you surprised to hear that Fedde was going to be starting this afternoon's game, Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, I was, because I thought all week it seemed like it was trending the other way and they were just dragging it out because it's uncomfortable for the decision they were going to have to make. But then they just didn't make the decision. Like, it was just status quo. Nothing ended up happening. It's not like you have to normally announce, hey, our guy that's our starter every fifth day is going to start on his turn. But that's what it devolved into. And when you get beat up like he did for a couple starts and giving up touchdowns, 7 runs in both games, it's like, all right, he's struggling, but, we're going to see through it. You're right. The Sunday start was different because he got 4 outs and the manager was like, okay, enough of this. Like, we just can't keep doing this. That was where it felt like it kind of reached an untenable point. But, they're going to try it again today. I think he'll probably be very mid, like 5 1/3, 3 runs, to where we're not going to have any answers as a result of this start, right? But that would be significantly upgraded to comparing to what he has done.
Dude, that would be a massive win if we saw 5 1/3 from Erick Fedde.
So I guess that makes me like he records an out in the 6th is what I've been saying. So I guess that makes me like a massive optimist here. What's your prediction? Am I over the top with this? And let us know in the chat. What is the line? Innings pitched, runs allowed, hits, walks, strikeouts, if you want to get detailed.
It's tough because you look at this Braves lineup that still clearly has some pieces. They showed it last night. Right now, it's a righty heavy lineup, so maybe that plays a part. But Erick Fedde is. Few guys have been, to be quite frank, struggling more in the league here the past month than Erick Fedde has. So, I would like to say that it's going to be better today. We saw Miles Michaelis make some adjustments in his previous start, but it seemed like he had also clearly pointed out that, like, okay, he had figured out that he had been tipping pitches and
right.
So it's where a lot of the home runs came from for the Cubs. And he made some adjustments at the very end of his start and at least finished on a somewhat better note. That has not been the case for Erick Fedde. There's been very little positives to take away from his last few starts. I would like to say that it gets better today, but he has given me no reason to think as to why. So I think I don't know if we're seeing him get into the 5th inning today. I really don't. But the problem is, right, is if the Cardinals find themselves down early, I don't know if we see Ollie Marmol take it the exact same way that he took it against Wrigley, where you're thinking, okay, if we pull him early, we get the bullpen in here. They're refreshed for the day tomorrow. Maybe the offense can put some things together here and we can find a way through this. That was not the case last week, and I don't think they have the luxury to do that unless they make some transactions today. We see some guys coming up from Memphis, but I don't know if we're going to see that today. Unfortunately, because they're just really not in a place with those couple of guys. And who do you throw from Memphis right now? We saw, unless they're bringing up Graceffo, like you said, we saw Roycroft last night. We saw Fernandez. So they definitely could go to a couple of those guys. But yeah, it's not a situation set up very well for Erick Fedde. If he doesn't go deeper, or like you said, even 5 1/3 into this game, what do they follow it with? we didn't see Steven Matz yesterday.
Matz, Leahy.
Maybe we see Matz get stretched a little bit, but we are getting into the All-Star, near the All-Star break, so you can afford to do that a little bit more. Maybe that's the route they go today. I'm not optimistic that Erick Fedde is going to have a typical starter outing. I would say 4 innings, 4 runs on 6 hits. Listen, if that's what we get, but we get no, if the walks are limited, then I'd be okay with it. If you get hit around, you get hit around. Please don't put guys on base. Please do not give free passes.
If he starts putting guys on base, Ollie will circumvent the rules of Major League Baseball and just let Garrett Hampson finish the game. He won't care what the score is. I'm telling you, that is the thing that will absolutely infuriate Oliver Marmol to no end. That's why he took him out in Chicago, right? Like I can watch
walks in 2 1/3. Is that what it was?
I can watch 1 1/3.
1 1/3. Yep, you're right. 1 1/3. Even more.
I can watch you get hit around and not like it, but if you're gonna walk guys, it's gonna be excruciating. So if he does your line even with no walks, it's probably his last start. If he does my line, it will be really interesting to see what I'm going 5 1/3, 3 runs, 3 walks, 4 hits, 1 strikeout. And that's going to be that should be enough to tell you too, like you can't project it to get any better than that. And so we'll see. The bullpen thing is interesting because they might need some innings, but they know already. Ollie and Dusty, Ollie's like, I'm going to go talk to Dusty right now, and we're going to figure it out. But like you mentioned, Matz, Leahy could throw a couple probably. John King, it's been a minute. I guess he didn't pitch yesterday, so there you have that. Yeah, it's good. It's interesting. The one guy that I would bring up if I needed some bulk, you mentioned Graceffo, that could work. I would just bring up McGreevy. Like if they were making a move today, McGreevy would be the guy I would bring up, and like he can rescue Fedde, or if Sonny Gray is peacing out after 5 innings tomorrow because like he's got a flight to catch or whatever. Like I think McGreevy could come in for either of those guys and rescue with it being so dang hot, and it's just I think that would be honestly a reasonable insurance policy to have for either of these games. I just don't know who you send down or how you manage it from the Memphis side. Who cares? Like he's supposed to pitch today, McGreevy. Anybody else, just bullpen game, whatever. That would maybe be the move I would make just for some protection for both Fedde and Sonny Gray, but I don't know if it's something that will be in the offing with a roster move. Will we see a roster move for Nolan Arenado is another question, because he dealt with the finger again last night that it kind of flared up on him. Index finger, right throwing hand. They called it a sprained finger. He was sitting there post game. It's not like it's wrapped up or anything. It's just fingers bothering him really when he throws and maybe a little bit when he swings a bat too. And it's been since the Cleveland series, which was, a couple weeks ago, I feel like, that this has been going on and off. And they tried to get him through it. Remember, he missed like 3-4 games in a row where he was trying to just rest. And now it's flared up again. Do you IL him for 10 days, knowing that 4 of the days are All-Star break and you don't actually have to miss all those games? Or do you do what I would do? This is what I said this opinion on my podcast last night. What I would do is just say, screw it. You're going to play short today. You're going to play short tomorrow. If you can play, great. If you can't play, okay. He's got 6 days at that point to get it figured out, not have to be using it. And then if he has an issue thereafter, the risk is like, okay, you miss a full 10 days on the IL when you don't have an All-Star break to deal with. But I don't know that anybody they could bring up from Memphis for today and tomorrow is going to make like that big of a difference to where I'd rather just have a healthy Arenado coming out of the break. I'd sit him on the bench today and tomorrow, and I would start him Friday coming out of the All-Star break, hoping that the finger is good to go by then. But do you think that they should maybe be looking at an IL thing for Arenado just to get it right, so we're not dealing with this the entire second half?
Yeah, it's a good question. If we don't have the All-Star break here, then it's probably the conversation looks a lot different.
Yeah.
I'm still probably hesitant to lean towards no. Now I don't know the severity of the injury. I don't know what that's like to be dealing with, and
it's
if it's
nagging.
It's nagging. That's the exact thing, right? If it's going to continue to affect his play for and has potential to be a longer period thing, then maybe I'm looking at this differently. But I'm looking at maybe if Ivan Herrera is back right now, I know he's not far away. Then
he should be back today too, by the way. In my opinion,
I didn't think we were going to see him until post break.
No, that's the word, right? But he went 3 for 4 last night for Memphis, and he's not catching. Remember the last rehab that he had, it was like he's got to catch a bunch of games to get his feet under him. I would like to see Ivan Herrera in the lineup today. I don't know if there's been a lineup announcement yet.
There has
I guess
not.
I guess I could look at that. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but while we're having a show where we're just throwing stuff out there, I think he should be in the lineup today. But the Cardinals obviously don't have a lineup because the Braves don't have a pitcher. So the Cardinals don't have to set their lineup until the Braves tell them who's facing them. That's literally what it says on MLB.com. Pending opposing pitcher information is the status of the lineup. I would actually call Herrera up today and have him bat,
It brings up an interesting conversation. Maybe you're looking at it a little bit differently if you get the presence of that right-handed bat back. But I look at everything. I mean, these games against the Braves matter, obviously. Everything down the stretch here matters. But once you resume play post All-Star break, the magnifying glass is going to be stronger than ever on those 2 weeks of baseball. And you're gonna need your guys healthy. So if it ends up being a better alternative to give him those first few days, let him finish out an IL stint before coming back, and he's able to get right, then so be it. If he thinks that 6 days is enough, if they are to sit him these couple of days, then I'm rolling with that option. I am going solely based off of what Nolan Arenado tells me, and I have a feeling that if Nolan Arenado is not going to tell Ollie Marmol that he can't play through it or can't figure it out. He's going to try to stay off the IL, I'd imagine.
Yeah, last night he said, he hates to put Ollie in that position, but mentioned like what you don't want is it to start creeping up your arm, and like now it's kind of in my forearm, now it's kind of in my elbow. Like you don't want that. So he was, in a precautionary way, decided that was the way to do it last night. But talking to Ollie when he was at the podium, he was asked about, you think IL for Arenado? What do you think? And he said something to the effect of, the guy loves to play baseball. So he could tell that it's not going to be an easy conversation if he's trying to push for ILing him. I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. Unless the person you're calling up early today is Herrera. And even then it's like, okay, you can send anybody else down instead of ILing Arenado. I would not IL Arenado, even if they were uncertain that a week would be enough time to rest and recoup it. He's going to have to miss just these 2 games, and then you get a chance next Friday to look at it again. So that would be my take on that. The Herrera thing, he was 3 for 4 last night, so I'm just saying if they wanted to maybe surprise us with a few roster moves this morning, maybe that could be one. And I see people talking on the chat. They're asking about Jordan Walker and his rehab. He homered 2 nights ago, and then last night I believe was 1 for 4. Bill wanting to know how many days can they keep him down there. 20 is the day count of a rehab stint for, and I believe that's not like 20 days since he was IL'd, 20 days since he started playing in games and actually went on the rehab assignment. And it's clear at this point, why they're doing it. He wasn't, he's sent down there to just kind of, get his feet back under him after the appendicitis thing, but he doesn't look good. And so rather than have him come up here and sit on the bench because he wouldn't play swinging like he had been swinging, rather than have to actually do a transaction to option him, which would be, a whole storyline, they can kind of quietly keep him down there and get the work he needs. 2 better days in a row. Maybe he's getting closer, Ethan, but he is facing AA pitching. So we don't want to necessarily like get too over the moon, but yeah, I don't know. The Walker stuff is in limbo. They'll draw out this rehab assignment as long as they need to, honestly.
It wouldn't surprise me if he's playing close to all those 20 games, honestly, or 20 days worth.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me. You, like you said, I mean, getting your footing correct down there is better than not playing up here. So, you can use it attached with the rehab stint. You don't have to make a move yet. Why make a move yet if you don't feel like he's ready for major league pitching? So the final question I'll ask you here before we wrap, going back to Erick Fedde one final time, the speculation, right, has been that Erick Fedde is still in this rotation. Michael McGreevy is not starting today because John Mozeliak wants to see if they can build any sort of trade value for him in these last couple of starts before the deadline. How optimistic are you that what we could see from Erick Fedde in these next few starts could get someone to the point where they're willing to give something up for him?
My belief is if they're not already there, they're not going to be there. Like nobody's going to be duped by 2 Erick Fedde starts that he's suddenly better. He's had a full career at this point. He's gone overseas. He's come back. Like, people in the league know Erick Fedde is a pitcher, and they'll decide whether or not to, take a flyer on that, in my opinion, unless he's throwing a complete game or something, which feels unlikely at this point. I just don't know that MLB teams, it feels like we are treating MLB teams like it's a video game and like you can trick them. Like that there's not smart people in these front offices, that there's going to be one game where it's like, hey, that was close enough to respectable. Trade him. Like, that's not how it works, I don't think. Mo apparently thinks that is how it works. I don't know. Like, again, the reporting from Derek and Katie, like, their reporting is spot on. Like, they are explaining contextually that the deadline's coming up, and if you can rebuild a little value, maybe that's part of this for the Cardinals. It's Mo didn't say anything to Samuel's question. Mo didn't really say anything. He just didn't call up McGreevy.
It's speculation from trusted writers, right? I mean, like,
well, they're saying, part of this conversation is trade deadline's coming up. Can they get him out there and get him looking good enough to where they could flip him? What are you hoping to gain? Like,
otherwise, why are they starting him?
Right. Because they think he's better than McGreevy. I don't think they think that, or like that he projects, because like his numbers on the season were good before 3 weeks ago. I know that. But also there was the underlying that people were saying, hey, this is going to regress. I thought it would regress too. I didn't think it would regress to where like he goes from being like 3.5 ERA to you cannot put him on a big league mound, and they're doing it anyway. I just don't buy that, the trade value argument. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm saying I don't think it makes sense that they're doing it that way. But maybe if it's just this one more, and if it doesn't work out, they cut ties with it. But like, imagine he throws, what's a reasonable start that he'll throw today that's going to change teams' mind? Like, is he going to go 6 innings and give up 1 run? And you're going to go, all right, now's the time to trade him? Or are they going to go, okay, I've seen him do that lots of times for you this year, but why did he just throw like complete garbage for 3 weeks? I'm not going to just look at one start and pretend that's the only piece of data that we have on Erick Fedde and give you up a piece. Now, right now, what would happen if today you DFA'd Erick Fedde? Would he get claimed on the couple million, 2-3 million that he's still owed by a team like the Braves, or a team that has, a pitching department that goes, oh, we can see from afar what Erick Fedde's doing that's screwing him up, and we're going to tell him do this, that, and the other, and suddenly he's back to being a solid, middle of the rotation guy. If that's the case, I think they do that without seeing him pitch today or next week, right? Like, if there's a team that already feels that way, they would do it. But if the Cardinals don't think, hey, if we DFA him now, he might not get claimed, well, then we got to pay that $2-3 million. What if he has a couple of starts that he's like decent, and somebody else has more pitching injuries, and they get more desperate on July 28th, and it's like, all right, we'll do it. And it's like, okay, what are we getting? I don't know. The Cardinals are getting Matt Swanson from 3 years ago, or something even less pronounced. But maybe the other team is taking the money. And that's what would be disappointing to me. If this is like a chance to get out from under a couple $1 million owed to Erick Fedde, rather than, because nobody believes you're getting a premium prospect back. Even if he does turn things around, there's still that stink from June that is not going to be something teams completely can ignore. So if it's about money, and you're basically saying, yeah, McGreevy probably gives us a little bit of a better chance to win, but we might also be able to save some money here. When you win 85 games instead of 87 or 88, and you're talking about the little margins of the end of the season where you weren't able to get to that requisite number for a wild card, it's going to be really annoying that you can look back on a few games and say, yep, could have maybe had McGreevy. Doesn't mean he's going to win today if it's McGreevy, but like, put your best foot forward. I think you owe that to the fan base, and you owe that to the other players in the clubhouse who have turned in a 5 games above 500 season to this point when people didn't expect it.
I've been refreshing here, trying to see if we can get an update on a lineup or a pitcher for the Braves, and Brian Snicker has just absolutely failed us. So that is
he still didn't do it. Man.
Still 3 hours and 14 minutes before.
I would love to be. I know, obviously, I don't know what the clubhouse times are right now, if they're in there right now for the Cardinals side, but we're doing this show, so I can't be the fly on the wall. But to be a fly on the wall in Ollie's office right now would be kind of fun. No, that's not going to be till 11:30 that the media is talking with Ollie. So I just am sure they're looking at going, what's going on here? Like, can we get some information? But the Cardinals might be busy too. Joe is from the Great Beyond here, messaging in as STL Sports Central. don't you at least call McGreevy up today to back up Fedde or Gray tomorrow? McGreevy cannot start in Memphis today. I actually agree with that from an innings perspective.
You brought that up.
We talked a little bit about it. From an innings perspective, Riley and Swanson combined for like 75 pitches in 5 innings almost last night. I don't want to see either of them sent out, Ethan, but I would say the best, most efficient way to make sure you're covered for today and tomorrow with a hot weather expected and Sonny just had to tap out after 70 pitches in hot weather last time. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to tell Memphis, sorry, guys, your bullpen game today, and we just need McGreevy waiting in the wings. I just feel bad for whoever you send out because it's probably somebody that pitched last night, like Swanson or Riley, and those guys are good enough to stay on the team. So we'll see what ends up happening there.
It's going to be interesting here over the next couple of days to see how the Cardinals, how Ollie Marmol exactly navigates working through and not only trying to get through these games, but trying to win them as well. You know, I think I think we've almost with the reality that Erick Fedde starting today, I think there's almost been this accepted like that part's going to be really tough. Let's hope that the Cardinals are able to retaliate. They're able to bounce back. Erick Fedde's able to bounce back, and we're looking at talking about going into tomorrow. Sonny Gray giving you a chance to finish out the first half of the season on a high note. Erick Fedde facing off against TBD is what we're leaving you off with here on Card Central 365. Any thoughts before we wrap, Brendan?
I would recommend the Braves to pick a starting pitcher so we can know what the lineup is.
Yeah, why don't we just go head on to the ballpark now?
I'm gonna go down there
and
hold Sticker accountable. What are you doing?
He is Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Ethan Hannaford. This has been Card Central 365. Myself and Grant Salzman will have the post game, and we will see you then right here on STL Sports Central.